Welcome to SV Sports. It's part 2 of our NFC Preview. The NFC South.
Love that style.
I'm Matt, Popcorn Knife Mauler.
I'm Ryan, Showtime Velasquez.
All right. So we're going to start things off with the division winner last year, the Atlanta Falcons. So the first team we're going to be talking about in our NFC Preview is the Atlanta Falcons. And it is the first NFC team that has a key addition. Running back Steven Jackson.
What?
Yeah.
What up, Steve?
You got anybody else that Atlanta added?
No keys for me.
No keys, alright. So Matt Ryan had a great year last year. For a while I thought he was going to win the MVP. He was stellar. He was my fantasy quarterback, so I was maybe a little partial. But he did throw for 4,719 yards, which is 5th in the league, 32 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. He just signed a big extension within the last couple of days. So, do you think Matt Ryan will have another great year this year, Ryan?
Yeah, Matt Ryan, the $100 million man. They got the receiving core, the tight ends, and now also a running back to take the load off. So, yeah, I think Matt Ryan's going to have a big year. Last year is the first time Matt Ryan went over 4,200 yards or over 30 touchdowns. But he also threw the most picks he's ever had in his career. So he's turned the ball over. He's also putting points up on the board. But that's a double-edged sword when you throw with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, talking about their wide receivers out, they have Rodney White, who had 1,300 yards. Julio Jones, who had 1,200 yards. Tony Gonzalez, who had 930 yards.
It's an old man.
He's been in the league for 930 years, I guess. But, yeah, I thought he was going to retire after last year, but he's obviously hungry for that Super Bowl. The Falcons finally made that deep run that they wanted to make for a while, but they didn't make it as far as I thought. I thought they were going to make the Super Bowl last year, but they return everybody and they add another addition to what Steven Jackson, who had 1,000 yards last year. The only 3 losses they had last year were in the division. They lost to the Saints, the Bucs, and the Panthers. So I think the Falcons are definitely going to come out strong and challenge for the division title. Do you have anything else about the Atlanta Falcons? The Dirty Birds?
Yeah, I got a few things. Julio Jones, Rodney White, and Tony Gonzalez combined for 25 total touchdowns. Nobody else on the team scored more than 1, so it's pretty much those 3 guys. So if defenses can contain those 3, then nowhere really else to go. As you mentioned, they get Steven Jackson, but they also lose Michael Turner. Steven Jackson has a rush for over 1,000 yards since his rookie season, so that's 8 straight years in a row he's been over 1,000 yards. But and then over his 9-year career, he's only been over 7 touchdowns twice in his career, whereas Michael Turner has only been over 1,000 yards in 3 of his 8 seasons, but he's been 10 or more touchdowns for the past 5 years. So Michael Turner doesn't get the yards, but he puts the ball in the end zone, something Steve Jackson hasn't been able to do.
Yep. Well, the next team we're going to talk about is obviously Ryan's forte here, the New Orleans Saints.
Who dat?
Next team we're going to talk about in the NFC South is a team that I'm still maybe a little bit bitter at, the New Orleans Saints.
Why are you bitter? Because of that? Are you bitter because of this?
Yeah, maybe just a bit. I don't.
Change, son.
Oh, man. But they didn't add anybody. Did they add anybody, Ryan? I guess you probably know better than me.
Yeah, they added defense coordinator Rob Ryan, and they added Sean Payton after that 1-year suspension by Roger Goodell, who is such a dumbass.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Drew Brees last year led the league in 3 categories.
He's the man.
Yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. He had 19 interceptions, 42 touchdowns, and 5,177 yards.
Bring it, son.
Yeah, of course he broke that record of most was it most touchdowns and at least one touchdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, consecutive games. Do you think he's have another stellar year this year, Ryan?
Drew Brees just seems to throw the ball around wherever he wants all the time. And, he's always been interception prone because, when you throw the ball as much as he does, then you're going to turn the ball over some. This is his second straight year with 5,000 plus yards with 40 plus TDs. So, he's been throwing it around. And when you got a receiving core like he does, 4 different receivers had over 600 yards and 6 touchdowns or more. That's just insane. And then, usually it's just Marquise Colston, Jimmy Graham, and Darren Sproles, but then Lance Moore broke out last year with 1,041 yards and 6 touchdowns. So, they just got a lot of weapons, and it's going to be hard to control.
Yeah, their receiving core is crazy. Look at the stats they had last year. And even Mark Ingram had a pretty decent year. He had their running back, had 602 yards and 5 touchdowns. And he's young, so next year he might come out and be even stronger. The one drawback last year is they weren't a winning team, didn't make the playoffs, and they had a terrible defense. They were 31st in passing defense and 32nd in rushing defense. So how do you fix that? You bring in Rob Ryan. Is Rob Ryan going to alleviate the pressure and make this defense a little bit better than they were last year?
Rob Ryan, he's a good defensive mind. Obviously, that's his job. But, I remember in Dallas, he was outspoken just like his brother. But most notably, he's got that long gray hair. But, it's defense has always been a problem for New Orleans. And the reason they have always, been a problem is they return the ball over. The one year that they led the NFL in turnovers and reception or interceptions for touchdowns was the year they won the Super Bowl. And last year they were only +2 in the turnover ratio, so they need to get that up. And I think with Rob Ryan they can. But, the big drawback from last year was they didn't have the best coach, in my opinion, in the NFL for the whole year. They went 7-9 last year, and over the 3 years that Sean Payton's been there, for the past 3 years, he's gone 37-11. So when you take a consistency like that and the brilliant mind away, the team's going to suffer.
Yeah, Sean Payton come back, I think will definitely help them a lot. Last year they had a slow start, but they had a decent midseason. I thought they would win maybe 4 or 5 games when you first started watching that last season, but then they were able to turn around and not have too much of a bad record. So I think they'll come out strong this year. I think that Sean Payton coming back will definitely help them a lot. So I'll let you have the last word on your New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, like you said, having Sean Payton out was a big killer. And then, like you said, with their last year they had a really slow start, but those games that they lost by 1 touchdown against Washington. They lost by less than a touchdown against Carolina. They lost in overtime against Kansas City, and they lost by 1 point against Green Bay. So when you add all that up, it's like less than 15 points over 4 games. So that's something that with the continuity of Sean Payton, I think they're going to be able to erase that. If you add those 4 wins onto their season last year, they would have been 11-5 and in the playoffs.
Yep. So next we're going to talk about Cam Newton's Carolina Panthers.
Cam Newton.
All right, the third team we're going to talk about in the NFC South is the Carolina Panthers. Just like, most of the NFC teams, I don't have any key additions for the Carolina Panthers. Do you?
Nope, in the NFC, when you suck, you stay sucky.
Yep, I guess so. Well, it's Cam Newton's 3rd year. Last year he threw for 3,869 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He was the team's leading rusher for 741 yards and 8 touchdowns. And that's the problem with the Carolina Panthers, in my opinion. You can't have your leading rusher be your quarterback. Do you agree with me, Ryan?
100% I agree with you. It's just an injury issue. You got the quarterback to win football games with his arms, not his legs. That's why you have a running back. But unfortunately for them, they have Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, who are the most underperforming running backs I think have ever been through the NFL, combined for 1,073 yards and 6 touchdowns. Mike Tolbert got 7 touchdowns on 54 carries. So he's vulturing their TDs, but still yardage-wise, they are just underperforming.
Yeah. Steve Smith did have a decent year. He had 1,174 yards and 4 touchdowns, but The Panthers still didn't have a winning record, so it's kind of mute. They haven't made the playoffs since 2008. And the last time they won a playoff game was 2005. So is this finally the year they have a winning record, Ryan, and maybe, make a splash in the NFC?
I don't think so. Cam Newton, still his third year in the league, and they don't really have a strong running game. And also, they've got a pretty tough schedule. They've got a 3-game stretch in the middle of their schedule where they play Atlanta, at San Francisco, and then the Patriots at home. And then they end the season with New Orleans twice and then at Atlanta for 3 of their last 4 games. So those are 3 that can be really hard to come out with a winning record.
Yeah, that's not good at all. So that's about all we have for the Carolina Panthers. So
Sorry, Carolina. Sucks to suck.
Yeah, maybe if you're good, we'll talk about you more. But until then,
probably not.
We're gonna be probably not. We're gonna talk about Tampa Bay Bucs next.
My note sheet's got water stains.
All right, we finished our talk in the NFC South with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And unlike most of the NFC teams, they have some key additions. Cornerback Darrelle Revis.
Revis Island.
Running back Peyton Hillis. And a kicker, Lawrence Tynes, formerly of the New York Giants. So, they had a pretty good passing defense last year. So that's good. Number first ranked passing defense last year. But, they didn't make the playoffs, but they weren't bad. They almost made the playoffs. They also had the worst passing defense. So maybe they need to focus a little bit more on the passing defense.
Hey, idiot, you said they had the best passing defense.
Oh, they have the best rushing defense.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. It's
Someone's had a little too much Bud Light tonight.
Yeah, right. Josh Freeman had a pretty good year, 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. And Doug Martin was a breakout star last year. Had 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. So
the Duggernaut, bitch!
What do you think about the Tampa Bay Bucs this year?
Josh Freeman, last year, he had kind of a bad year. He had the most attempts in his entire career there, but his from year to year, his passing completion percentage went down from 62.8 to 54.8, which is a drop of 8%, which is pretty bad. And he also threw 17 interceptions last year, and over his 4 years, he's thrown 63 picks, which isn't real good. But luckily, he had Doug Martin pick up some slack, but they obviously didn't make the playoffs, so he's going to need to stop turning the ball over.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay Bucs, last time they won a playoff game was the Super Bowl in 2002. They've only made the playoffs twice since then, 2005 and 2007. Talent is there. They're definitely on the brink, I think, of being a good team. They have Vincent Jackson, they have Mike Williams, they have Dallas Clark, Doug Martin, Josh Freeman, and now they have Darrelle Revis. So hopefully that'll put them over the edge, and maybe they can make the playoffs. Peyton Hillis is not about that either. He had that really good year in Cleveland, and he made the cover of Madden. But since then, he's kind of, fallen off the radar. He's cursed. So maybe he could break it in Tampa Bay. Lawrence Tynes, adding kicker doesn't really affect your team that much, but he's a pretty solid kicker. I think that'll definitely help him as well. You got anything else about the Tampa Bay Bucs?
Nope. They're the Bucs.
All right. Well, that is all the team previews we have. Stick around, and we're going to tell you who we think is going to win the NFC South. And I bet you can't guess who Ryan is going to pick. So we wrap our talk about the NFC South by telling you who we think is going to win the division. So I'll let Ryan go first.
Oh, why, thank you. You're such a gentleman. Well, you'll never guess, but I'm going to have to go with who dat? New Orleans Saints that, got to break out the break out the helmet, got the glasses out here, got the sign hanging up, the jersey on. But it's not all bias. Trust me, it's not all bias. I got the Falcons going to the playoffs too, and I have it being a close race. I just feel like last year the Saints, had those 4 early season losses, which could have easily turned into wins. And then they had a strong stretch. And then they had games where really it came down to play calling and experience, which Sean Payton brings. Like I said, past 3 seasons, Sean Payton went 37-11 with 1 Super Bowl win, and they made the playoffs for the past 3 years. Last year was their first time in 4 years that they've missed the playoffs. I've got Drew Brees. Whenever he's on your team, light up the scoreboard. Last year they averaged, 28.8 points a game. So with Rob Ryan coming in to help the defense out, can't stop their offense.
Right. Well, once again, we disagree. I think this would be a good division to watch. I think the Bucs add some talent that really will challenge the division. Of course, the Falcons, added Steven Jackson, so the better only get better. The Saints getting Sean Payton back is definitely a plus. But then I think the Falcons are going to win the division again. I think that Matt Ryan's going to have just as good a year. I think Steven Jackson is going to come out and really want to perform even better because he's actually on a winning team. So I had the Falcons win this division. So we're 2 for 2 on disagreeing. So maybe in our next segment we'll agree. I guess you'll have to watch.
Never agreeing with you again.
Oh, okay. All right. So that wraps up our talk about the NFC South. Next, we'll be talking about the NFC North. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. Send us emails. Tell all your friends. Go to our Facebook page. Print out flyers. Just do anything you can to spread the word. And
don't let your girlfriends follow us. They follow us, they ain't your girlfriends no more.
Until next time, I'm Matt Popcorn Mahler.
And I'm Ryan Showtime Velasquez.
You're watching NFC Sports.
Get some.